After the incredible drama of 2021, Formula One is gearing up for plenty more excitement in 2022. There is already so much to look forward to as Max Verstappen looks to defend his world championship. Plus, next season sees the introduction of new rules and cars, only increasing the intrigue. A rules revolution for the 2022 season means we will see a completely new generation of cars. The concept, marking one of the biggest technical changes in F1 history, has been overhauled from recent years and is, in essence, a simplified yet new-look race car following a drastic aerodynamics overhaul. The car features several noticeable tweaks, but the headlines are bigger and less technical front and rear wings, larger 18-inch wheels, and specially designed ground effect floor. The new cars don't just look a lot different, but they should have a marked effect on the on-track product, with more exciting and competitive wheel-to-wheel racing. Rule changes are always exciting for F1 teams as they essentially reset the pecking order and give them a blank slate to redesign a competitive car. That leads to unpredictability and could lead to surprises, with teams often acing the new regulations out of nowhere. Take Brawn back in 2009. That being said, Mercedes and Red Bull and Lewis Hamilton and new champion Max Verstappen will likely still start the season as the favourites. Although, look out for teams like Ferrari. The Scuderia have been openly targeting this rules reset over the last few years, and other big name outfits with a point to prove, such as McLaren and Aston Martin. Obviously, questions still surround whether Lewis Hamilton is returning for next season after such a dramatic end to last season and a crushing title defeat. Hamilton's return certainly isn't a given, and his radio silence and social media purge has only added to speculation about his future. But it would be a huge surprise if F1's most successful star wasn't on the grid this year. Not only has he signed a deal with Mercedes for 2 more seasons and spoken incredibly enthusiastically about the new rules, but Hamilton still has records to break, as Mercedes made it clear with a telling hint earlier this month when they posted a picture with the caption, "Adversity causes some to break, others to break records." As well as the car changes in 2022, Hamilton has previously spoken about his desire for new races to be added to the calendar, and more specifically, a race in Africa, and he may well be getting his wish. Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali has hinted fans could see the return of South Africa on the calendar for the first time since 1993, amid calls from Lewis Hamilton to reinstate it. Hamilton has repeatedly called on F1 bosses to add a race in Africa, admitting he believed there was a great following in the country. Formula One has made various changes to the bumper 23 race calendar proposed for the upcoming season, with the addition of a race in Miami and the return of Australia, Canada, Singapore and Japan. Speaking of South Africa, Domenicali said, "As I said, the US is important to us and we're working hard to make Miami a success in 2022. The other region that we shouldn't underestimate is the Far East, especially with Guan Yu Zhou, who now drives for Alfa Romeo. Interest from China is growing, which is why the region will also move into our focus. A comeback in Africa, whether in the north or south, would be great. How quickly this works will also depend on the situation around COVID. We must not continue to underestimate the corona pandemic. We could also have to adjust the calendar again in 2022. F1 Global Director of Race Promotion, Chloe Target-Adams, who deals with event organisers, says the continent is top of the current wish list for new events. World champion Lewis Hamilton has stressed Africa is where he would like the series to go next. Former F1 boss Bernie Ecclestone tried for many years to find a way to return to South Africa, which last hosted a round of the World Championship in 1993, and that desire has continued under Liberty Media management. While South Africa remains the most likely venue, there's also been interest from other countries, notably Morocco, which hosted a race in 1958. I completely agree with Lewis. Africa is a continent that we don't race in, and that's just wrong. It's somewhere that we very much want. It's the priority. We've been in talks with possible options for a few years, and we're hoping that ultimately we'll be able to achieve a race there in the kind of near to mid-term. Alongside Africa, the US remains a clear strategic priority. We've got a great race in Austin now, where we're looking forward to working with our promoter, hopefully for some more years to come. But we're looking at a second race opportunity, a destination location, and looking to build up that US race proposition. Equally, Asia, we've made no secret of the fact that that's also a key priority. However, Target Adams insists F1 has not given up on the Vietnam GP, which was dropped from the calendar in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic and won't feature this season after a local political scandal. Vietnam is an incredibly exciting race location for F1. Hugely young demographic in the country, vibrant business sector, somewhere we're very, very excited to race. And 2020 was to be the first race with an amazing circuit built in the outskirts of Hanoi. And then, totally understandably, no one wants to launch a first race in the middle of a pandemic. We're working through some localized issues with some change in government going on as well, so we've just decided and agreed with our promoter, Vin Group, that 2021 just wasn't the right timing for that. So we continue to work through with them, and longer term we'll obviously still relish the opportunity to have a race in Vietnam. So we're hoping we'll get there eventually. With the calendar currently set to feature 23 races, Target Adams concedes finding space for new events is the key issue. We're a global series. We're fortunate that there's a lot of interest. Equally, there are limited spaces on the calendar. So that's when we look at, without wanting to leave any of the cornerstones of the calendar behind or longer term relationships, how do we manage that opportunity of bringing on these new locations and being able to reach fans in those areas? Which is where the kind of alteration of existing circuits becomes quite an interesting concept. And working through that, Africa, US and Asia is where we're wanting to target in terms of new races at this moment in time. But questions have been raised after the inaugural Formula E Cape Town E-Prix, which was dropped from the calendar only a few weeks ago, with the championship bosses hoping to defer it until 2023. Back in October, Hamilton reiterated his desire to race in South Africa, adding, "The place I really feel to my heart is the most important to me is to get a race back in South Africa." I think there is a great following out there, and I think it would be great to highlight how beautiful the motherland is. Hamilton also backed a second race in America, which was later confirmed by F1 bosses. We could also have to adjust the calendar again in 2022. The US Grand Prix is fantastic. It's such a huge country, said the 7-time world champion. Having just one race here for sure is not enough to really tap into the sporting culture here and really encapsulate the fans and get them on a journey with us. I think definitely we need to have two. But there are so many great cities to have a Grand Prix. They are going to have one in Miami. It will be incredible, as is Austin. I don't know where they will have the next one. I think that's quite cool, having these kind of little mini championships in each continent. It's not a bad thing for the sport. So, with Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali talking about the new race schedule and potential changes for the future, the question remains whether Lewis Hamilton is going to be a part of it. New FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has revealed he sent messages to Lewis Hamilton but is yet to receive a response from the 7-time champion. Since the conclusion of the finale last season, Hamilton has spoken publicly only to Jenson Button in his immediate post-race interview, failing to attend both the top 3 press conference that evening as well as the ensuing FIA prize-giving gala. Speaking to Spanish media, Ben Sulayem said, "I sent him messages, yeah. I think he's not 100% ready to respond yet, and I understand this position." Although not in office at the time of the Yas Marina race, Ben Sulayem confirmed investigating the events that decided the championship would be the first thing on his agenda. Referencing Hamilton's non-attendance of the FIA gala, Ben Sulayem added, "There are also rules that must be accepted by all drivers, but I cannot judge until I have all the data, and the first thing on my agenda is to thoroughly analyse what happened in Abu Dhabi." In the end, we're all human, and the stress and pressure were there, so I think it will all work out. You have to look more into the future than to the past. Pre-season testing gets underway on February 23rd before the Bahrain Grand Prix season opener on March the 20th.